The most dangerous Google Ads metric is not a fake number. It is a real conversion that never becomes cash. Your click-through rate can look excellent. Your conversion rate can move in the right direction. Google can even give the account a strong optimization score, and the business can still lose money. That is the uncomfortable idea behind this case study. The lesson is not that AI can magically run ads. The lesson is that advertising is only one part of a revenue system. If the rest of that system is disconnected, better ads can simply waste money faster. The case comes from an 83-minute course by Jono Catliff. He walks through a local service advertising operation he says he built. According to the account data shown in the course, Google ad spend reached about 180,000 Canadian dollars. He also reports roughly $730,000 in business revenue. Those are the course author's historical figures. They are not an audited benchmark. They are not a promise that another company will get the same result. And revenue is not the same thing as profit. The interesting question is not whether the headline number sounds impressive. The interesting question is which operational links made the standing measurable. The first link is message match from query to page. When someone searches for a specific service, the ad should answer that specific need. The landing page should continue the same conversation. Imagine the person searching for drain cleaning in Toronto. A generic home services page creates friction immediately. A Toronto drain cleaning page feels like the next logical step. The service, location, headline, and call to action all reinforce one another. That sounds obvious because it is obvious. The problem is that doing it across dozens of services and cities is slow. Most teams stop because the manual production cost becomes too high. This is where a coding agent such as Claude Code becomes useful. It can generate structured location pages from an approved template. It can produce ad variations tied to the same service vocabulary. It can help organize negative keyword lists. It can create tracking checks and reporting dashboards. It can compare campaign settings against a written operating standard. None of that invents a new theory of advertising. It makes an old and correct method cheaper to execute. The agent hands repetition while the operator controls the rules. That division of labor matters more than the point. The second link is knowing which metrics are only proxies. A click is evidence that someone noticed the ad. A submitted form is evidence that someone completed a form. Neither event proves that the business made money. Some forms are spam. Some leads sit outside the service area. Some people want a service the company cannot deliver profitably. And some campaigns collect cheap leads that sales will never close. If the system optimizes only for forms, it learns to find more forms. That can look like progress while unit economics quietly deteriorate. Location settings are a simple example of this problem. A local operator may only serve a limited radius, but loose location targeting can spend money far beyond that radius. Negative keywords create another quiet leak. One irrelevant query does not look dangerous. Thousands of irrelevant queries become a permanent tax on the account. An agent can inspect search terms and flag recurring waste. It can also check whether exclusions were applied consistently, but a human must decide what counts as irrelevant. The business model defines the rule, not the model. The third link begins after the click. Lead response time changes the value of the same traffic. A person who requests help is usually counting more than one provider. The first credible response often earns the real conversation. In this case, automation routes new leads to sales very quickly. The exact number of seconds is less important than the operating principle. Do not pay for intent and then let that intent go cold. The system should notify the right person, place the call, and record the result. If nobody answers, the workflow should schedule the next attempt. Speed is not a marketing metric, but it changes marketing scientists. Now, consider two companies buying the same $50 lead. The first company calls once and marks the lead as bad. The second company follows up until it gets a clear outcome. It records whether the number was valued. It records whether the customer was qualified. It records whether an appointment happened. It records whether a quote was accepted, and it records whether the invoice was actually paid. The media cost is identical. The operating discipline is not. The second company buys less waste from the same advertising market. The fourth link is offline conversion feedback. Most ad accounts treat a submitted form as the finish line. For many businesses, that is only the starting line. The better system connects the ad click identifier to the customer record. That customer record then follows the lead through the sales process. When an invoice is paid, the system can send that outcome back to Google. Now the algorithm learns from customers who created revenue. It is no longer learning only from people willing to leave a phone number. This is a much harder data problem than writing an ad headline. It is also where the economic value of the automation becomes visible. The next step is turning a working process into a reusable asset. The page template should become a documented skill. The campaign check should become a repeatable checklist. The negative keyword review should have clear acceptance criteria. The lead routing workflow should have owners and failure alerts. The revenue dashboard should define where every number comes from. Then the next campaign does not begin with an empty chat window. It begins with an operating procedure that already survived review. AI can execute that procedure faster. The organization still has to design it well. There are important boundaries before anyone copies the system. Local services, economics, software, and enterprise sales have different funnels. Response speed matters differently across those businesses. Call length is not a universal quality signal. Landing page conversion rates vary with traffic, brand, and offer. Review filtering can violate platform policy when implemented carelessly. Customer data and call data create privacy obligations. Offline conversion uploads also require a proper consent and governance process. Automation should make policy controls more consistent, not make them porous. A profitable workflow that creates regulatory risk is not a good workflow. My read is that AI is not replacing the media buyer here. It is replacing the unowned connective work around the media buyer. It builds the pages nobody had time to build. It checks the settings nobody remembered to check. It moves the lead before the lead gets cold. It joins the invoice back to the click. The human still decides which service has margin. The human still decides which city is worth entering. The human still defines a qualified caller, and the human remains accountable when the system is wrong. So stop asking whether AI can write better ads. Ask whether your advertising, sales, and revenue data form one closed loop. Ask whether every lead has a visible owner. Ask whether every conversion has a business outcome. Ask whether the algorithm is learning from forms or from paid invoices. Ask whether the workflow can explain where each dollar went. The reported return in this case may not transfer to your business. The architecture of the feedback loop absolutely deserves attention. In the agent era, the advantage is not generating more activity. It is knowing which activity becomes cash. Subscribe for the next breakdown.